Hello everyone. I'm really excited to be live again on this Awareness Monday. Here in New Zealand today, a public holiday, Labor Day. Hello Jenna, lovely to see you. Good morning. I'm gonna wait for a little bit, see what people are doing here in New Zealand. In the Bay of Plenty, the weather is amazing, so probably quite a few people at the beach, I would assume. So good self-care. So let's see what's gonna happen on this very sunny, beautiful public holiday in New Zealand. Yeah, there's a second one who has just jumped on. Yeah, just maybe for those of you who are already here, that's the second Awareness Monday where I jump live and talk about a topic that I feel passionate about and just like talking about. And these Mondays, these Awareness Mondays, are really a series of much more to come in this group, the Mind Your Karma community. And the intention behind that really is to shine some light on some of the topics and themes and question marks and issues that we all have as we walk through life. Last week we talked a bit about stress, managing stress and feeling overwhelmed with more ease. And today the topic will be about self-care. So these topics are connected and linked, of course. Yeah, today's topic will be about self-care, the art of surrendering. And this really is a topic that I feel very passionate about, because it's a topic that no matter what your background is, in terms of your role, capacity, and what you do on a day-to-day basis, such as being a teacher or a psychologist like I am, or a nurse, and so on. It doesn't really matter what the background is, but oftentimes this topic is a hard one for most of us, because it is such an ongoing journey, and because of the fact that we are cyclical beings following our own inner seasons, and of course also there's the outer seasons. Our needs and our look on life changes constantly, and therefore the requirements and what it really means to care for ourselves changes constantly. And one great example is for the women amongst us that are watching now is we're going through our monthly cycle every month, and that basically means every week our hormonal levels, our bodies and our emotions are changing, and therefore also our needs, our needs to what keeps us feeling nurtured, nourished and safe changes. So that's why that topic of self-care is such a huge, big, and sometimes somewhat challenging, but at the same time also very, very exciting topic, because it's an ongoing journey through life. And really, when I try to define what does self-care mean, probably in a nutshell, I'd say making ourselves a priority, which doesn't mean making ourselves the only priority, because this is oftentimes, I'm going to get there in a moment, those hurdles and barriers that we feel inside when it comes to self-care. is, oh my God, um, you know, I cannot only think about myself. But in a nutshell, I think this is what it describes to me: making myself a priority. And like I said, straight away, for many of us, you know, the alarm signs are being switched on. Mm, but I can't do that all the time. That's not realistic. I'm not that important. I don't have the time. I have other commitments and, demands. I have kids, I have this, I have a job, I have that. So the list of all those barriers and hurdles is long. And, you know, I'm not sitting here and saying, they're excuses. Because they are realities in all of our lives. These demands and to-dos and duties, and they are. But that's when it comes back to self-care is about making ourselves a priority, and not the only priority. And the other part of this whole mm, I'm not that important, I have other things that I need to attend to. The more we are delaying or procrastinating certain needs that knock on our door from the inside, the more we're feeling frustrated, or even maybe resentful, or angry, or sad. And what oftentimes happens, and I've observed that with myself, when we feel we're letting ourselves down constantly, it's sometimes easier to throw that at other people, really, and to project that onto others, and be like, it's because, you know, this person really annoys me, because they don't have my needs met, And oftentimes when I feel resentment or anger or frustration about not getting what I need from others, um, I usually tune in with myself, um, and go, hang on, what is that really all about? Because in the end of the day, it's that expression within ourselves that we're letting ourselves down constantly, that we're ignoring our own inner guidance, basically, about what is really truly needed. Yeah, so that's a good, you know, starting point to think about, okay, do I have challenges to make myself, is it hard or difficult for me to make myself a priority, to even say that, to even think that, because, we all have narratives and programming and conditioning within us that we picked up a long, long time ago from our role models, yeah? Um, we might think we're selfish, we might think other things are more important, and all the rest of it. So what are the hurdles actually, and what thoughts and beliefs and inner blockages come up when you think about, oh, making myself a priority? How does that look? What does that mean to me? And where's the resistance towards that? And yeah, also tuning in, how often on a daily basis do I feel frustrated or resentful even towards others, or angry or sad? So this is a good starting point. So I call this talk today, self-care, the act of surrendering, because this is what it really is for me. When I connect with self-care, for me it's about tuning in with what actually is present and what's actually going on in this moment. So tuning in with the situation, with how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. In other words, what is my capacity at the moment here? And being present with that. What's my emotional capacity? What's my mental capacity? What's my physical capacity? Where am I at? And being present with that, meaning allowing that, surrendering to some extent to that. And that's a difficult one for many of us because, you know, again, it's those narratives and beliefs and thoughts that kick in that hinder us from surrendering to something that we maybe don't like about ourselves. Yeah, such as, you know, feeling weak or feeling like, you know, we're not quite achieving what we want to achieve. And that can make it hard to just, you know, to give in and to surrender to what is. But in a way, surrendering doesn't mean we just accept it and then it's stagnant and it's, you know, gonna stay there forever or stay like that forever. Surrendering just means, again, that act of being present and acknowledge, okay, this is where my emotional capacity is at the moment. This is where my physical capacity is at the moment. That's where my mental capacity is at the moment. And from there, I can then come to draw conclusions and ask myself, okay, so given that's where I'm at in this particular moment, what is the loving action here? What would be my act of self-care that best attend, that has the best potential basically to attend to this present moment or state of being. So it's basically a beautiful question that you can ask yourself is, when you think about the next step that you plan to do, is that actually beneficial for me? Yeah. So asking yourself, is this beneficial for me right now? So for example, you may have on your to-do list, I have to go and do the groceries, and then pick up this and do that. What is really needed? What is really beneficial for me? Maybe it's going for a walk, and that doesn't have to be a 1 hour walk. Maybe that's a 10-minute walk. But working with these, you know, with these little questions, these awareness questions, is this really beneficial for me? And what is beneficial for me? So opening yourself up to a new possibility, basically, of how the situation that you're in could continue in a different way for you. So in other words, the question also is, what would release pressure here? What would make it easier for me, given my capacity in this moment? So the loving action could be anything, like, you know, saying no to someone, saying yes to yourself, slightly changing your schedule and incorporating little breaks because you may feel somewhat less energized on a particular day and you need more breaks. So that's what I mean when I talk about the loving action, you know. It's on the one hand tuning in with, where am I at? What's my state of being in this particular moment? What's my capacity here to hold space? And then based on that, make a step towards that loving action. In other words, how can I best attend to my need? Yeah, so, and that's really an advanced act of surrendering, you know, because in the moment when, that's my experience with this inner work, when I soften the resistance or that inner pressure, a little bit, and I change my, yeah, first of all, my outlook on things, but then also my actual to-do list or my actual schedule, a whole new world can open up. Because through that act of acknowledging what's actually happening inside of me, I soften, and it feels much, much, much easier to continue my day, or to later on get onto the things that I, was meant to do. Yeah. So oftentimes in my private practice as a psychologist, but also in the workshops that I'm facilitating, on stress management and self-compassion, personal development, and also within the women's circles that I'm facilitating, oftentimes a huge topic is, but I don't really know what my needs are. So in particular women, but not only women, but it's a topic that I have been observing in women predominantly, is I don't really know actually what my needs are. And what they're actually really saying is, I don't really know where to start, and how to figure that out. It feels oftentimes kind of like another thing on the to-do list. Oh my God, I have to do this now, and then that comes on top of all that other stuff that I have to sort out anyways. Yeah. I already flagged that. You can actually, for some of us, it helps to have categories and, tap into different categories. So when it comes to needs, you could have a look at, okay, I have physical needs, I have emotional needs, I have mental needs, I have spiritual needs, and just only to name a few, yeah, main categories. So probably the most tangible for most of us is physical needs, so we have the need to eat something over the course of the day, to nourish and nurture our bodies, to move, potentially to move our bodies, to exercise, to do yoga and these sorts of things. But also, when I think about physical needs, that's like, the need for touch, the need for, and touch can be all sorts of things, that can be through a massage, or, through hugging a friend or your partner or your kids. Yeah, so there's all sorts of different versions how this can be attended to, basically. Or a massage, yeah, or that sensation of soaking in water or jumping into the ocean. So that's just a few examples what are physical needs. When I think about emotional needs, that taps into, well, how do I look after my inner emotional world? Yeah, for example, my need for emotional connection, my need for connecting with friends, with family. How do I look after myself when I'm in a certain mood or state of being, such as feeling sad, feeling rejected? How do I incorporate joy and lightness and happiness in my life, or playfulness? So these are all examples for emotional needs as a category. Mental needs, that taps into the world of thoughts and beliefs, really. And I mean, you can already tell that they're all connected to some extent, but like I said in the beginning, it can help you to have different categories and to kind of like have a look, okay, what category, what cup needs to be refilled or recharged, what cup is running empty, um, And where am I already good at, you know, where in what category do I already have a good understanding of what's happening and what's going on. Yeah, so in terms of mental needs, that's a broad category as well. Just only to name a few examples, that could be like the need for education and inspiration at a mental level, you know, such as, you know, watching podcasts or listening to podcasts, or any sort of educational material and inspirational speakers. Yeah, but that's really only just one particular example. That also taps into how am I navigating my mind when it is busy or overly busy or too busy, when I have too much thoughts and things spiraling through my mind, and how do I attend to that? Yeah. Spiritual needs, an example could be, you know, connecting to whatever spirituality means for you. So, for example, at my healing center, Mind Your Karma, we offer kirtans on a regular basis, which is singing mantras, and mantras are Indian, well, songs or chants that are sung in Sanskrit, which is an old ancient Indian language. And the whole purpose of the spiritual practice is to connect to the essence of love and devotion to the divine, or to, you know, your higher self, your inner being, whatever it is that you kind of connect to. So by actually offering those chants through singing, we connect to this, to the spiritual realm of whatever the mantra, the chant is offering. So that's really only one example, you know. That doesn't mean all of you have to get into singing now and become 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 kirtan lovers. But you know, what connects you? The question here in that category is, what connects you to um, your higher self? Yeah, that part in you that is neutral or unaffected by all the, you know, storms and weathers that happen around you as you walk through life. It will connect you to this strong inner center. And then the picture that comes to me now is, you know, this tornado, and the calmest place actually to be in the tornado is right at the core, right in the middle, at the center of the tornado, because this is where everything is still. And the further out you get, the more crazy it gets, basically, and the more you're entangled and wrapped up in the story of the surroundings and the situation. Yeah. So that's just only a little compass or navigational guide, in terms of how you can approach that topic of needs. What are my needs? What are my emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual needs? And like I said, the list is long, it's infinite, and you could find more categories. So that's just only a suggestion for you to start tuning in, and also to position yourself. What category do I already have a good understanding of in my life? And what aspects have I neglected so far? What needs a little bit more attention, care, and nourishment? Yeah. So one area I want to just talk about when it comes to self-care, the act of surrendering and needs, and that's oftentimes one of the biggest hurdles that we have when it comes to this topic, and the main reason why we procrastinate making ourselves a priority, and that's the topic of setting boundaries. Setting boundaries with other people and with ourselves as well. And it's really a topic that for most of us is a hard one. Um, Saying no to good friends, saying no to our kids, saying no to our family members, to our partners, is a challenging one. And depending on what stories we tell ourselves when we say no, um, we might feel anxious about that. Saying no might not feel safe. We might feel scared of being rejected, or of not being liked, or, being looked at or judged or criticized, for making ourselves a priority and saying no. A beautiful reminder here that has helped me a lot with that whole topic of boundaries is when we say no to someone, we actually say yes to ourselves. So I'm going to say that again. When we say no to someone, we say yes to ourselves. And that really struck me, and it just reminds me over and over again. Yes, because if I say yes to myself, I'm in a much better state to actually be of service and present with whoever I'm dealing with. So instead of forcing us into the next appointment or the next meet up in our personal lives while we're maybe sitting there, I actually don't want to be here, I actually don't want to do that, and then that resentment, that anger, that feeling of I let myself down here, that impatience, comes through again. It's like, okay, saying no to someone actually means also saying yes to myself. And the more we say yes to ourselves, the more we also increase our own capacity to create those relationships in our lives that are capable of respecting each other's boundaries and self-care. And if anything, this is what the people and relationships in our life that most of us want to attract. Yeah. So it's this, that kind of like cycle that we got wrong, that the more we say yes, the less we will be criticized, and the more we have people in our lives that actually like us. But actually, when we start setting boundaries in a graceful way, in a loving way, in a clear way, and that clarity is, that's why, the clarity work is what are my needs, and that's what we need, that clarity, in order to set those boundaries. So the clearer we are as well, the more we give the other person also the chance to see and realize where we are at. And if anything, my experience is that creates much more respect in a relationship as well, because when we're respecting ourselves, we're inviting the other person to do the same for themselves and for us. So it becomes a co-creation and a flow. So as an outlook for you, as we're wrapping it up slowly, a beautiful question at the end of this Awareness Monday today is to ask yourself, okay, what brings me pleasure? What could bring me pleasure today? How can I create this day in a more pleasurable way for myself? And I'm not talking about huge big steps, that might be things you're doing anyway already, but you haven't, maybe you haven't put that intention or that that awareness into what you're doing, that actually is a pleasurable thing for you to do. So a lot of people work with gratitude diaries, 5 things I'm grateful for. I invite you to actually tune into the question, as I look back, and you could do that every night at the end of the day, what has brought me pleasure over the course of the day? What was pleasurable for me? Yeah, was it that beautiful lunch that I shared with my friend? Was it the beach walk and my feeling my feet in the sand, or as I'm looking out of the window today and seeing this beautiful sun? Um, it, to me, it feels so pleasurable to feel the sun on my skin and to just lie in the sand and enjoy that. Yeah. So to keep it light, and to not make this whole self-care, the act of surrendering journey into another chore that needs to be done. It's like maybe you can just open yourself up to this question: hey, what brings me pleasure and joy? What really feels pleasurable and good and enjoyable for me from moment to moment, basically. Yeah, so thank you so much for listening, and thank you for those who decided to go and be at the beach or outside today, because it is such a beautiful day. We'll be posting this video anyways in our Mind Your Karma community group, so you're able to watch it again. On Wednesday, you have the chance to ask questions and about this topic, or whatever comes up when you think about that topic of self-care or your challenges. Ask me any questions and we will do our best. I will do my best to answer your questions. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of this Monday. Enjoy and do pleasurable things as much as you can. Thank you so much. Bye for now.